the problem to me is that these guys just, I completely seem like they are scrambling and on their own out there. And this whole putting lines into a blender has caught up to them a little bit, I believe. It's time to get away from that and start rolling with a team that you like. And it's even worse on the back end. I mean, it is a good problem to have when you have 9 legit NHL defensemen that you can play, but not if you give this ring around the rosy rotation that they have going on, where every D-man, for the most part, doesn't know if he's going to be in the press box the next day based on one little mistake. And I've played like that my whole career, and it's no way to play hockey. You're gripping your stick. You're thinking about what the coach is doing. Every little chat he has with the defense coach, you're wondering like, oh, is he on my case? And I got to have a good next shift. And then you grip it even more. I mean, Liljegren looked out of sorts. McCabe looked terrible. Gustafsson looked out of sorts. The whole back end was, a little bit sloppy and a little bit jittery. And I mean, at this point in time, with a top 5 NHL team going into the playoffs to make a statement and do something big for their organization, this isn't what you need to be doing, playing Pee-wee hockey where you're rotating 9 defensemen. I mean, are you telling me that you're putting Justin Hall in front of Luke Schenn? Is that what you're telling Luke Schenn right now? That he's playing, that he's not playing? I mean, the only thing that I can think of is that he's trying to rotate the guys to try to avoid injury and spread the ice time out a little bit. But Luke Schenn's played 2 games in the last, month and a half?
Yeah.
You think that guy doesn't want to get going and he's the kind of guy that needs to get reps and needs to get his game going. And you're not just going to, I mean, it's arrogant to think that you're going to come into the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs and just snap your fingers and say, oh, we're going to be playing elite hockey right now. I'm sorry, there's not many teams that are that good. And even a top 5 NHL team, you need to do some work and you need to get your bearings go into the playoffs. And this is not how you do it. It's the first time I've been kind of pissed off. I've defended Keefe every step of the way. Still think he's a good coach. Still think he's the guy for the job. I'm not turning my back on him. But what are you doing with that roster? And it was an exclamation point to me, sorry to rant, where he pulls the goalie with 7 minutes left. To me, on the bench, that's a big FU to your players and saying, here you go. Everyone take a nice minus out there because I'm not happy with what you're doing out there. And guess what the player's response is going to be to that? Fuck you.
That's exactly where I wanted to go with this conversation. Number one, John Cooper does this all the time and widely regarded as the best coach in the NHL. If the message sending isn't working, man, make it happen on the ice. To me, that screamed it's a 5-2 game. You guys have been shit tonight. You're going to take it. And that's exactly what happened. Ends up being a 7-2 hockey game. So you're telling me as a former player, you weren't a big fan of it?
No, I was. And I think those guys, I mean, I don't mind the line juggling a little bit and whatnot, but after a performance like that, where you are clearly not on the same page as a group of 20, time to get some guys going. You've had a look at everybody. You know what you got. You know what they give you. Start to put guys together and start to make some mold. You're not just going to clap your fingers in the last day of the season and say, there we are. There's our awesome team. We're clicking right now, firing on all cylinders, ready for the lightning. It doesn't really work like that. And maybe his idea is to do that in the near future, but enough's enough. Like, we're clicking down to the last few weeks of the season here. Time to get your roster set and start rolling into the playoffs. And that whole pulling the goalie thing, like, I think Cooper does that. I remember Dallas Eakins used to do that. You'd pull the goalie with a lot of time left if you're down more than one, just to say, hey, if we don't get a couple of goals here, we have no chance of winning. But with 6 minutes left and to pull it with that game that was going on, I feel that was just to screw you. And you don't want to get into a pissing match with your locker room. And I'm not saying that's what was definitely happening, but it's just a bad look. Time to get rid of the blender and time to get your lines going and get your team rolling to the playoffs, man.